Hi, I'm Eric Siegel with ericstrains.com. Today we are going to change gears once again and go into tinplate mode, O-gauge tinplate mode. This is the latest and greatest reproduction of the classic Lionel number 256 electric and the Lionel 710 and 712 Pullman and observation cars. These are made by MTH under the Lionel corporate tinplate banner. Alright, so what we've got here is a modern reproduction of a Lionel pre-war O-gauge tinplate train set, the Lionel number 256 twin-motored electric, and then behind it we've got two of the Lionel 710 Pullman cars, followed by a 712 observation car. The original pre-war 256 and 710, 712 passenger cars were manufactured by Lionel between 1924 and 1930, and back then this would have been considered a top-of-the-line O-gauge set. Now, the modern reproduction that you see here was last offered in MTH's 2015 Lionel corporate tinplate catalog, and then these things were delivered in early 2016. It should be noted that when Lionel first made the number 256 and the matching passenger cars back in the pre-war period, they were not done up with prototypical road names like you see here. They would have just sported the Lionel Lines name, and they would have been painted in solid colors like orange and red and blue and stuff like that. The addition of the prototypical road names is a modern thing that MTH is doing with these new reproductions, and so for that reason in the 2015 catalog, this set is available done up for the Pennsylvania as well as the Milwaukee Road. Now, in the 2015 Lionel corporate tinplate catalog, the set is shown as you see it here, but this is actually two separate purchases. There's the engine and then the 3-pack of passenger cars. Additionally, MTH has two add-on cars that you can buy separately. There's an additional 710 Pullman car, and then there's also a 713 baggage car, which I don't think is something that Lionel originally offered in the pre-war days. Alright, so we're first going to take a look at the engine, and then after that we'll take a look at the 3 passenger cars. So let's start things off with some stats and facts on this engine. The length of the engine is right at 10.5 inches. If you count the big couplers, it's 13.5 inches. The weight of the engine is 4 pounds 1 ounce. The pulling power of the engine is 1 pound 11 ounces, and this engine is very friendly to tight curves. The minimum required curve needed to operate this engine is 0.31. Just in case you don't already know, these tinplate trains feature all metal construction. Pretty much everything you see is sheet metal or formed wires, maybe a little bit of die-cast metal here and there. Very, very little, if any, plastic is used in these models, and usually if you can find plastic, it's in the form of headlight lenses or insulating discs and stuff like that, but everything else is pretty much all metal. This engine may be totally old school on the outside, but on the inside, it's all 21st century technology. The engine features MTH's ProtoSound 3.0 with DCS, so you've got command control as well as a sound system, and the engine also has 2 flywheel motors on the inside, and that's kind of neat, an engine this small having 2 motors, but that's because the original Lionel 256 had 2 motors as well. And back in the pre-war days, having 2 motors was a real luxury. Only top-of-the-line outfits would come with 2 motors, and that's why, like I said earlier, when this engine came out in 1924, it was a top-of-the-line O-gauge engine. As we go in for a closer look, here we have the front of the 256. It's very simple, just like the original. We've got our little cow catcher down here, and then the big tinplate coupler right there. I'll show you how these work later if you're not familiar with them. Then we've got these little flag stanchions, and we have little metal flags in them. These flags are packaged separately with the engine when you buy it. There are 4 flags included, 2 for the front and 2 for the back. We've got a couple of separately applied metal grab irons. We've got a couple of nice windows with red trim, and these windows don't have any clear plastic inserts or anything like that. They're very simple. We've got a door here in the middle that does not open, and then right here we've got that beautiful Penske logo. Here's a closer look at the side of the engine, and what's not to like? We've got this great looking 5-stripe Penske logo going across the side. We've got this brass plate with the Lionel lines and number 256 on it. We've got these great looking journal boxes down here. These are one of the hallmarks of Tinplate engines. They look fantastic. We've got some nice vent detail up here and some nice looking windows. Now there's a slot here that has nothing in it, and you may wonder what that's all about. Well, when the 256 was originally made back in the pre-war days, there was a metal rod sticking out of this slot that was used to control the engine. I believe it was used to control the direction. Well, with modern electronics, that's not needed anymore, but since the original tooling already had that slot, they left it in. Why not? Here's a look at the other end of the 256, which of course looks exactly like the end we've already seen. Here's a look at the top of the engine. On the front headlight here, we've got a red marker badge here and a green one on the other side. And on the rear headlight, it's reversed. So we have green here and red on the other side. And that is so that when the engine is moving, no matter which direction it's moving in, red is always on the right and green is on the left. Now, these light bulbs are really cool. They look like the old school style light bulbs that these engines originally used, but actually these are LEDs. There's a little LED inside this globe here. So you get the old school look, but you get the longevity and the efficiency of LED lighting. Moving on, we've got lots of nice brass trim going on up here, and we've got a couple of air tanks in the middle. And then we've got these brass pantographs, and these are really cool because they actually do move up and down. So I've got the rear one up right now because this is the direction of travel. But if I want to push it down, you just push it down and it locks in place like that on this little latch here. And then the front one comes up like that. Pretty neat. Now, these are not operating, they don't conduct current, nor do they move up and down by themselves. You have to use your fingers, but that is in line with how these old school trains were. And although this may seem kind of simple by today's standards, back in the 1920s, this was really cool stuff. Here's a look at the underside of the engine, and it looks so cool down here because everything is so authentic to the original pre-war engines. We've got the signature red wheels that Lionel used on so many of their pre-war engines. We've got the old school style pickup rollers. We've got the Lionel nameplates on each of the two powered trucks. How cool is that? Now, one modern touch is that this engine does have traction tires. There are 2 traction tires on the inner axle of each truck. So we've got a total of 4 traction tires. And then here in the middle, we've got the master volume control for the engine. All right, that takes care of the engine. And now let's check out the passenger cars. There are 2 of the 710 Pullman cars and then 1 of the 712 observation cars. So let's check out one of the 710 Pullman cars first. You know, it really doesn't get much better than Tinplate passenger cars, and that's regardless of whether they're the bottom of the line passenger cars with almost no detailing at all, or the top of the line state set style cars. They all have a beautiful simplicity to them that can't be matched, even by the modern scale passenger cars, which are beautiful in their own right, but these are something completely different. So with the 710 and 712 cars, beautiful simplicity is exactly what you get. These things are absolutely gorgeous. We've got the 2-tone paint job with the Tuscan red bodies and the black roofs. We've got these awesome looking journal boxes on the trucks down here, just like on the engine. We've got these brass steps. There's a little air tank right there with black and brass. We've got the brass 710 plates as well as a brass Pullman plate. Got the big Pennsylvania name up here. Then we've got these nice looking windows, and this is one of the few spots on this set where you will find plastic. Now, I imagine on the original 710 and 712 cars back in the 1920s, they probably used something like acetate for the windows, but nowadays they just use plain old plastic. So we've got clear plastic inserts down here, and then sort of these stained glass looking inserts up here that are also plastic. Now, the doors have windows as well, but those do not have inserts, and that's because they did not have inserts on the originals. However, these doors do open up like that, and there are 4 doors on each car. Here's a look at the end of one of these cars. We've got the big Tinplate coupler down here, and then a very simple door. Now what's kind of cool is that the side doors and the end door open up into a little vestibule area, and then there's another door that goes into the passenger compartment. Alright, since we're looking at the end of the car, I'm going to go ahead and show you how these Tinplate couplers work. Now, for most of the pre-war period, this is what Lionel couplers looked like. They also made a type of coupler called a box coupler, but that's a conversation for a different day. Now, for you scale modelers out there, you may be looking at this and saying, my God, that's the most unrealistic coupler I've ever seen. Why did they make them like that? Well, it was the technology of the time. It took Lionel quite a while to perfect the O-gauge knuckle coupler. It wasn't until after World War II that the knuckle coupler debuted. And so in the pre-war days, they had to make do with what they could make at that time. And so this is what they had. Now, as unrealistic as this may look, from a reliability standpoint, these things are fantastic. In fact, I would put the reliability of these couplers up against any modern couplers. Once you couple cars together with these couplers, they will not come apart unless you want them to come apart. You could couple a couple cars together and throw them across the room, and they would not come uncoupled. That's how good they are. And, you know, back in the pre-war days, these were purely toys for children, and Lionel wanted to have a reliable product. Realism was not the most important thing. Reliability was, and with these type of couplers, they had a very reliable toy. Anyway, these couplers are very simple. There's a little hook right here, and then there's a latch right here, and the latch is sprung, so when you lift it up, it'll snap back down. Now, on really old pre-war trains, sometimes that spring might be missing or it might be worn out and you might not have that spring in it, but a normal operating pre-war coupler should have a nice spring to it like that. So to couple some cars together, we're going to roll up another car and we're going to make sure that those hooks line up next to each other like that. And then what I do is I come in with my thumb and my forefinger, and like a pincer, I grab both latches and lift them up, slide the hooks in, and then drop the latches. And that's all there is to it. And like I said, this connection is rock solid. These things will not come apart as long as the couplers are in good working order. I don't care if the train derails and falls off the table or if it flies across the front yard. These things are not coming apart. Now, when we want to uncouple the cars, it's the reverse of what we just did. So I'll come in with my thumb and forefinger, pinch the latches and lift them up and separate. And that's all there is to it. Here's a look at the underside of one of these cars. We've got 2 pickup rollers, 1 per truck, and that's because each of these cars does have a light bulb on the inside, and you'll see that in just a minute. And if you take a close look at these pickup rollers, you'll notice that they look unlike modern pickup rollers, and that's because they are designed to look very old school like the original pre-war pickup rollers. We've also got a couple other neat things down here. On this end of the car, there is a Circle L stamped into the sheet metal, which is really cool, kind of like they did back in the pre-war days. And then here in the middle, there is a retro-looking sticker that has lubrication instructions on it. Don't remove that sticker. That is part of the pre-war charm. When these things were originally made back in the 1920s, Lionel put these stickers on the bottoms of the cars, and MTH, in wanting to accurately reproduce these cars, has put that same sticker down here. It's pretty cool. Up on top of the roof of these cars, there's a screw, and if you undo the screw, you can get a look at the inside of the car, and you also get access if you need to change the light bulb if it burns out. So, what we're going to do is remove the roof and give you a look inside. So I'll just loosen the screw, and then I'll take it off with my hands. And by the way, I'm wearing these gloves just so that I don't get fingerprints all over the car. Now these screws do have a plastic washer on them to prevent them from scratching the car up. But if you start messing with the screw and removing the roof, just know that you're probably going to put a scratch or two on it. It's pretty much unavoidable. Anyway, with the screw gone, we can now pop the roof off like that. There's only a couple things to see here, and this is one of them. This, of course, is the light that illuminates the interior of the car. Now, unlike the lights on the engine, this is not an LED. This is a standard incandescent bulb. But that's actually a good thing because it puts off a nice, soft, warm, white light, and that is very appropriate for these pre-war style cars. I do want to point out one thing about this light fixture. This is the perfect example of MTH really going the extra mile in making these reproductions as accurate as possible. Because just like that sticker on the bottom of the car, most people are not going to notice the type of light fixture on the inside of the car or the type of light bulb. But, you know, making a reproduction is a lot like making a movie that takes place in the past. If you were to make a movie that took place in 1930, and then all of a sudden in one scene of the movie there was a modern payphone or a modern Coke machine, it would completely ruin the illusion and therefore ruin the movie. And it's the same with reproductions. You have to sell the illusion. And so, you know, MTH could have gone the cheap way and just put a Christmas tree bulb in here, but if you took a look inside the car, it would ruin the illusion. All of a sudden you'd see this modern light bulb, and all of a sudden, instead of an accurate reproduction, you've got a piece of junk. And so MTH has been very, very smart about going the extra mile in every way, both inside and out on these cars. So this is the perfect example. We've got this light fixture that most people will never see unless they open up the car, and yet MTH, they spent the extra money and went the full 9 yards and put that old school fixture and that old school bulb on the inside to sell the illusion. The other thing I want to show you is that just like on the original cars, there's bench seating on each side of the interior of the car. And so if you wanted to, you could actually put passengers in here. Alright, now we're going to take a very quick look at the 712 observation car, which is pretty much identical to the 710 car except for a few differences. First of all, we've got 712 on the number plates. Secondly, we've got observation here in the middle instead of Pullman. And then on the back of the car, we've got the observation deck, of course. And then below that observation deck, you can see that there is no coupler on the rear of the observation car. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do before we start this thing up is BFIMO, best feature in my opinion. So I think the best feature on this set is on the engine, and it's these pantographs, these operating pantographs. They just add so much play value. At least they did back in the pre-war days. Now, I doubt any little kids are going to be playing with these expensive reproductions nowadays, but nonetheless, they are very cool, and so for that reason, I think they're the best feature. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and start up the number 256 and check out some of the sounds first.
Is it ready to go? Shoe springs and pads, check out, okay. Yep, she's in good shape.
Alright, first up, let's check out the horn. And up next, let's check out the bell. Now, the crew talk sounds on this engine are passenger train related for the most part. So you get the announcement of the train arriving and then one of it departing, and then there are several station stop announcements as well. I'm just going to play a few of them here, and then hopefully you'll hear some more as we continue to run the train later. The first two announcements are the arrival and the departure, and for me, that always makes me smile because it goes directly to a memory from my childhood of a station that I inherited from my dad. It was called the Noma station, and it had a little record player in it that would play station announcements, and so whenever I hear now arriving and now departing on modern trains, it takes me right back to being like 12 or 13 years old. Anyway, let's check it out.
Now arriving from Suburban Station on track 1, train number 3996. Now departing for Chestnut Hill on track 1, train number 3996. This stop is Pennsylvania Station. Welcome to Philadelphia. This stop is Westmoreland. This stop is Queensland. Welcome to Queensland. This stop is Upsall.
All right, let's go ahead and roll it out.
This stop is Pennsylvania Station. Welcome to Philadelphia.
Have a nice day. Thank you. Now boarding. Now boarding. Ticketed passengers only. Order. Thank you. May I take your baggage?
Now departing for Chestnut Hill on track 1. Train number 3996.
Pardon me. Hurry up now. Let's get that baggage loaded. Watch your step. Thank you. All aboard. All
Alright, that about wraps it up for this review. This is pure tinplate goodness, and if you haven't tried tinplate trains before, hopefully this review will get you thinking about it. There really is nothing more gorgeous and beautiful than tinplate trains, in my opinion. Now, if you're interested in purchasing this set, again, it consists of two separate purchases. There's the engine, which has a retail price of right at $500, and then there's the 3-pack of passenger cars, which consists of 2 of the 710 Pullmans and 1 of the 712 observation cars, and that has a retail price right at $400. And also, as I said earlier, there are 2 add-on cars you can purchase if you want. Each of those add-on cars has a retail price right at $140. There's an additional 710 Pullman car you can buy, and then there's also a 713 baggage car. Now, of course, all of those prices that I just rattled off are full retail prices. If you go through a good MTH dealer, you should be able to get a little bit of a discount off those retail prices. And as always, if you're looking for a good MTH dealer, try my favorite train store, which is Legacy Station. You can find them on the web at www.legacystation.com or give them a call at 770-339-7780. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm Eric Siegel, and I'll see you next time. To discuss this model or any other O-Gauge trains and to meet other O-Gauge modelers, check out the O-Gauge Railroading Magazine online forum at ogrforum.ogaugerr.com.